Hello, welcome back to this YouTube channel, returning subscribers. I sincerely appreciate you. I believe you have been blessed by the testimonies of God's faithfulness in the life of these individuals. You are about to listen to another testimony of God's faithfulness in the life of this person. And I believe that through the testimony, your faith will be built up and all things will be possible to you because you believe. If you are just coming for the first time, I sincerely appreciate you. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and the Lord Almighty will bless you. Thank you and God bless you.
I would like to share an example, a personal example. I got married 14 years ago, and before I got married to my wife, we had been in a relationship. We had been in the relationship. We had started dating, courting for 6 years before our marriage. So we had a 6-year courtship. Some 2 years or thereabout after we started, a year and a half, 2 years after we started in our courtship, I was away on my service year. We started when I was in my final year. I was away all the way in Taraba State. We were both based in Ilorin before that and schooled in Ilorin. And she came to visit. I lived in a 20-room guest house that was earmarked for youth corps members. And during the visits, she visited the week before I passed out, just my last week of service. So she came to spend about a week in Taraba State. And she was also preparing to go for her own service immediately after that. So she had resigned from the little job she was doing after school before service, and she came to visit our fiancé, right? And I had prepared in that guest house. We were sharing rooms with other people. I had a roommate who is a brother who was the president of NCCF during those days, and I talked to a friend, a sister in the NCCF that was a very good friend, that when she comes, she's going to stay with you, and because she may visit. So true to form, she came, she stayed with her. We did not really have too much, we were not pressured to do much until we now had to return to Ilorin together. And we left Jalingo in Taraba. It's a full day journey and we left late. So that meant that we would sleep on the way coming back to Ilorin. Because if we had left around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., maybe we'll get to Ilorin around 8 p.m. usually, because we would have to break the journey a number of times. There is no straight bus or straight taxi. All right, if you know that terrain very well, you would know that you would go through, the route I like to take is from Jalingo to Ukari, then I'll enter Benue State and go through Katsina and go towards Boko. Then from Boko, I will navigate towards Otupo into Kogi State, Okene, and then from Okene, Kaba, and then come to make my way to Kwara State. We got to Boko around 7 p.m. and it was getting dark already, and we could not go ahead again. So we looked for a hotel to stay. There was nobody I knew in Boko, so we had to stay in a hotel. And we went to the first one, it was fully booked. Went to the second one, we didn't really even like, I think it was the environment. So the third one was the one that we were able to stay in, and we're told they have only one room. Now, what do we do? I have only one room. I can't sleep in the car. The driver is not even going to allow me to sleep in the car because Boko for him was the terminus. He was supposed to drop us in Okene Park. And we got to Okene Park, there was no vehicle again. So we had to bring all our load into that hotel. And arrange for him to please come and take us in the morning to Okene Park. So that was what we did. We had to sleep in the same room where nobody knew us, we didn't know anybody, and where it was normal, it was seen as normal that a guy that was in NYSC crested vest to travel would bring a girl to the hotel and sleep over the night. It wasn't much of a deal for them. They didn't bat an eyelash. And I was trying to get a second room. It won't work. And we were very much in love. It was taking a lot even to keep away from it, to stay chaste. So here we were in this situation, and what should we do? What could we do? We didn't know anybody. We were not mobile. There was no phone during this period. It was 2004. Cell phones, I doubt there was even cell phone service in Boko at that time. There was none in Taraba at that time. There was no MTN in Taraba. It was only MTEL, and it wasn't functional. So it was a very dicey situation. Brethren, it was one of the longest nights of my life. Because this was me that had promised God, had promised myself, had promised my then fiancée that I would not disrespect you, I would honor you, I would not do anything that will bring dishonor to you, to your family, to the body of Christ, to your reputation. And this was me that had blood flowing in my veins and feelings and urges and being heavily tempted. This was she, my fiancée, that made the same promises to me. Now, being heavily also tempted. And it was quite a night. Brethren, it was a long night. We could not sleep. We talked and talked and talked. After a while, we fell asleep. There was no chair that I could sleep on to even give her the bed to sleep on, so that I can find my way to sleep on a chair, so that at least we maintain physical distance. But brethren, God helped us. God helped us that night. We talked, we prayed, we trusted God's presence. If it were today, I wouldn't advise what we did. I don't know, maybe we would have continued on to look for other places. If it was today, maybe we would have other options. But brethren, I told myself that night, I would never put myself or my fiancé in this position ever again. Whatever is not allowed with any other person, any neutral person physically, is not allowed. There are things that if we had crossed the line that night, we wouldn't have been able to make it. There are things that if we had done earlier to that, we wouldn't have been able to make it. And it will drive me to start with the lessons from my own experience, from scriptures, from experiences of others that helped us and is helping people and can help us to stay away and to overcome temptation in courtship. It is very key and very important and very essential that from the very beginning, we ought to have agreement. We need to agree on the rules of the game. What are the do's and the don'ts? Sit her down to agree. As we start, these are the things we do. We don't kiss, we don't touch, we don't peck, we don't do this. We are not alone we don't put ourselves in compromising situations by being alone. We set out the do's and the don'ts of the relationship from the get-go. Someone said some years ago to me, he said, it is not on the day that you are tempted that you prepare to overcome the temptation. You must have decided way before that if this temptation comes, this is going to be my reaction. That way, when the temptation comes, you have a reaction ready in your mind of what you would do. It is not on the day that you see a check that you can change the figure from 1 million to 10 million so that you can corner 9 million into your own pocket. It is not that day that you have a resolution and resolve in your mind not to do it. It is from now that you will tell yourself that no matter what is not yours, you would not take. The same applies to this. Have an agreement from the get-go. And if you're already midway and you don't have the agreement yet, you have not had that discussion with your intended, have the agreement now. Have the agreement now. There's nothing that says you can't press a reset to say, you know what, I've just learned now that we need to set aside ground rules for this relationship. If we want to keep ourselves, want to be holy till the day that we have the license to do everything physical, to show our love to each other sexually, then we need to abide by these rules. The second thing is know your limits. And what do I mean? We have different tolerances. There are things that can make someone else fall, that some other people can still be able to stand. Know your limits and respect your limits. There's nothing wrong with sharing that also with your intended. Sharing that with, see, me, I know they see beautiful girl for I. You see, these are the things that I must keep away from. So please don't bring them. So know your limits and respect your limits. This third one is establish and enforce boundaries. Be intentional about it too. You already know your limits. You have had agreements to establish boundaries. Then enforce it. How do you enforce it? You make yourself accountable to each other. Such that I got one advice from my mom when we were getting married. I married a pastor's daughter, a senior pastor's daughter actually. And my mom said, hey, you this child, don't go and disgrace us. So you know that your fiancé is, our father is Reverend so. Please, so don't, if each of you should be each other's accountability partner. Be accountable for each other. If you feel weak, let her be the one that will hold you. If she feels weak, make sure that you hold her accountable to be holy, to be chaste, and not to cross the line. So hold each other accountable, establish and enforce those boundaries. Those boundaries could include that you would not be alone in places where, in closed rooms, in places where sin can easily occur, in places where you can be easily tempted. And when that is happening, maybe you are visiting an uncle or an aunt, and it looks like the house will be empty and it will only be the two of you alone. Then your established boundaries would mean that time you would also leave, so that you would not put yourself in compromising situations. Okay, this one goes without saying. Watch and pray. We're Christians. The way we get away from temptations, the way we overcome temptations, a cardinal and a key important way for us to do that is by praying, and is by being watchful, not taking things for granted, but by being careful and being prayerful. I think that's on its own, it's clear. Finally, and number 5, guard your heart and your mind. It's essential that you control the things that you feed your mind. The pictures you look at, the videos you look at, the materials that you are exposed to. Unfortunately, in our times, almost everything is sexualized, even sometimes in the church.